The well behind the cabin. You ever notice how every small town has that one place people whisper about? Not in the way kids whisper about daring each other to knock on the haunted house door, but in the way grown men lower their voices in a diner just so you don't hear too much of it. For me, that place was the cabin. My uncle's place, tucked deep in the Maine woods, where the trees knit so tight overhead they choke out the daylight long before sunset. I wasn't exactly brave material. Never was. I was the kid who triple-checked the closet door, who slept with a nightlight glowing hot and steady years past the age when that was supposed to stop. But bravery wasn't on the packing list when Uncle Dave handed me the keys that summer. No, what I wanted was solitude. Quiet. Maybe a place where I could finally wrestle a half-baked novel out of my head and onto the page. The cabin was ordinary enough. Sagging beams, cedar smell sharp as an old chest, a fireplace that sighed like an old man when the wind pushed through the chimney. But it was what stood behind it that bent the world a little sideways. A well, or what was left of one. The stone rim was cracked, pitted with moss, its wooden lid gray and warped as if it had been pried open and slammed shut one too many times. It looked like something drawn from a half-remembered fairy tale, except this was no storybook. It was too real. Too wrong. The locals had a phrase about it too. Said it with a shrug like it was nothing but gospel truth. Don't draw from the well. Don't even look too long at it. Which of course only made me want to look longer. First night, I swore I heard something. Not the usual creaks and groans of an old cabin settling, but a sound that carried through the pines like a secret trying to escape. A splash, maybe. A voice tangled in the wind. I laughed it off. Too much beer, not enough sleep. The woods can play tricks on you if you let them. But by the second night, the tricks weren't so easy to dismiss. My reflection in the cabin's window lagged, blinked just a fraction too late, like it was on its own timetable. I'd hear footsteps drag across the porch when I knew damn well I hadn't invited anyone out there. And then came the dreams. Christ, the dreams. Always the same reel on repeat. Me, barefoot and shivering, standing at the edge of the well, staring into its black throat, something alive in the dark, staring back. By morning, I'd find the wooden cover shifted just an inch, too small to notice if you weren't looking for it. But I was looking, and I knew something was testing the weight of that lid. I told myself to leave it alone. Just nail the cover shut, pretend it wasn't there. But every time I tried to focus on my manuscript on a page on anything, there it was, whispering. Not out loud. No worse. In the skull. A need, a hum, like a hook buried behind my eyes, tugging me closer. It promised things. Answers I didn't even know I was asking for. A way to strip back the skin of the world and see what was underneath. I stopped sleeping. My hands shook when I reached for my coffee mug. The woods felt smaller, the shadows thicker, and the cabin, my supposed refuge, had become a cage pressing me toward the only door it wanted me to open. The well wanted me. And God help me, I wanted it too. It happened on the fifth night. The storm didn't just roll in. It tore its way across the sky like some furious animal. Lightning split the pines into skeletons. Thunder slammed into the cabin so hard I thought the walls might buckle. Every nerve in me screamed to stay inside, to barricade the doors, but I couldn't. The pull was too sharp, too deep. I grabbed the flashlight, stepped out into the teeth of the storm. The rain came down in sheets, cold enough to sting. My boots sank into the mud, each step dragging me toward the thing I swore I'd avoid. The well was waiting, not half covered, not hidden under warped planks, bare. Its black throat gaped wide, breathing. I leaned over, beam trembling in my hand. The light didn't catch bottom, just swallowed whole like it was shining into infinity. My heart hammered against my ribs, not in fear exactly, but in anticipation. And then I saw it. Movement. Slick and pale, climbing the stones with slow, terrible purpose. Fingers, long and thin, tipped with nails sharp enough to scrape sparks against the rock. I should have turned. I should have run until the cabin was a memory behind me. But instead, I leaned closer, closer. The rain pouring down my face felt like sweat. And when it reached me, when that thing's hand shot up and clamped around my wrist, do you want to know the truth? I didn't fight. Its grip was freezing, wet, strong as death. My flashlight slipped from my other hand, clattering against the stones before dropping into the pit. The beam spun as it fell, slicing quick flashes of what lived in the dark. The suggestion of a face, wide and grinning, eyes like hollow moons. It pulled, and I let it. Just for a heartbeat, I let it. The cold surged up my arm, wrapped around my chest, filling me with a hunger I didn't recognize as my own. And here's the worst part, the secret I can't untell. In that instant, as the storm howled and the earth seemed ready to swallow me whole, I wanted to go. I wanted to go. And lightning ripped across the sky, blinding white, and in that flash the cover slammed shut. I didn't touch it. Swear to God I didn't. But the sound was deafening, wood cracking against stone like a coffin nailed shut. I stumbled back, gasping, mud slick beneath my boots. The rain washed over me, cold rivers streaking my arms, my face, but it couldn't scrub the feeling away. My wrists still burned, ice deep in the flesh where that thing had gripped me. It wasn't just skin deep either. It was inside, crawling. When I looked again, the well was sealed, perfectly sealed. The lid didn't even look rotted anymore. It looked whole, strong, like it had never been moved. The woods fell silent all at once. No wind, no rain against the leaves, no far-off rustle of animals, just the sound of my own ragged breath. Then, snap, the lights in the cabin blinked on. One after the other, each window glowing, even though I hadn't flipped a single switch. Too still, too staged. I backed toward the porch, every hair on my body standing on end. The screen door banged in the windless air as if beckoning me inside. But I couldn't shake the cold. My palm was white, blanched as bone, veins darkening like spilled ink spreading under glass. The burn crawled up my arm in tiny needles, numbing and sharp all at once. I clenched my fist until the knuckles popped, but it didn't help. And then I saw it. In the window of the cabin, my reflection, staring out at me. But not quite me. The eyes were wrong, too dark, too patient, like something waiting its turn. I dropped my gaze, heart thudding, but when I looked back, the glass was empty. Just curtains swaying in the glow of the lamps. I wanted to believe it was a trick of the storm, of exhaustion, that my brain had short-circuited, but the truth was colder, heavier, undeniable. I hadn't walked away untouched. The well had marked me. And whatever lived down there, it wasn't done. I left the cabin the next morning. No shower, no breakfast, not even a second glance at the place. Just grabbed my keys with shaking hands and drove. Didn't pack a bag, didn't lock the door. I couldn't bear to. The idea of turning my back on that well, on what might have been standing behind me, was unbearable. The road out of the woods was long, curving, slick with last night's storm, and every bend felt like it might lead me back to the cabin, like the forest didn't want to let me go. But eventually the trees thinned, the gas gauge blinked red, and I collapsed at a rest stop like a man who just escaped drowning. I told myself it was a nightmare, a trick of nerves, of isolation, of storms rattling an already fragile mind. I even half believed it, but the burn in my palm wouldn't fade. Days later, the skin still looks pale, puckered, as if frost never thawed there. Sometimes when I press my thumb against it, I swear I feel fingers pressing back. And the world, my world, doesn't look the same anymore. It's in little things. The way my reflection lags in dark glass. The way drains gurgle a little too long when the water disappears. The way I find myself staring down manholes on city streets, straining to hear what might be breathing below. Because something is still holding on. I can feel it in the marrow. A promise. A pull. That moment at the well wasn't an ending. It was an introduction. And sooner or later, I know it's going to call me back. Maybe not to the cabin, maybe not even to Maine, but to the dark wherever it waits. And when it does, I don't think I'll fight. Because the truth is, part of me never climbed out. Part of me is still down there. And it's waiting for me to look down again. If this story gripped you, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow and makes it easier for more people to find these stories. Be sure to subscribe for daily content and share this with someone who loves a good scare. Thank you so much for listening and watching. There's another video recommended on your screen right now. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Locked door. Is how every house has that one door you're not supposed to touch? The one that sticks or creaks, or maybe your parents said, "Don't go in there." Yeah, in my case, it was the basement door. I grew up in a tired little town in Maine, one of those places where everyone knows your business before you do. The kind of town where the church bell wasn't just for Sunday mornings, it was for gossip. Our house was nothing special. 2 floors, wallpaper peeling like dead skin, windows that rattled when the wind came in off the marsh, and a smell of damp wood that never quite left. But at the bottom of the stairs, under the weak bulb that always hummed, was the basement door. It was always locked. Not bolted like you'd expect for a storm shelter. No, this was personal. My father carried the key on his belt, the same ring as his truck keys, his work keys, the key to the shed. But that one, small, brass, almost dull with age, he never let it out of sight. I'd watch him sometimes, catch him resting his hand near it, as though he was making sure it hadn't slipped away. He never explained why, never joked about it. He just told me, "Don't touch that door." And if I asked, his voice went flat, like he wasn't even my father anymore. I told myself it was nothing, a tool room, a root cellar, maybe where he kept his old bottles, the ones Mom didn't want to see. But sometimes, in the quiet, when the wind died down and the house shifted in its bones, I swore I heard something. Not the scuttle of mice or the drip of pipes. No. Scratching. Soft, deliberate, like fingernails dragging wood. Slow enough to know it wasn't accident. And when I pressed my ear against the door just once, I could have sworn, God help me, that something pressed back. Would you like me to continue into the... I was 15 the night it started. My parents had gone out, leaving me with the hum of the TV and a plate of cold spaghetti. Normal night, nothing special, except the door rattled. Not once, not like the wood settling. But again, a sharp, quick shake, as though something was testing the lock from the other side. My fork slipped from my hand. I told myself the same things anyone would. Pipes, drafts, mice, the lies we invent to keep breathing steady. But then came the sound that gutted those excuses. Click. The lock turned, not a full turn, just enough that the metal shifted, groaning in its frame. On its own. I froze on the stairs, spaghetti sauce drying in streaks on my fingers. I should have bolted, should have grabbed the phone and called my parents. Instead, like a moth to flame, I crept closer. Step by step, heart hammering so loud I thought whatever was inside would hear. The knob was cold. Not old iron in a drafty house, cold. This was outside in winter cold, like it had been dipped in snow. My hand hovered, trembling. That's when I heard it, a whisper. My name, clear as if someone had pressed their lips against the crack in the wood. I yanked back so hard I nearly fell. My chest heaved, sweat slick on my palms. The knob stilled, the rattling stopped. Silence spread through the house like a shroud. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every creak in the floorboards, every jingle of keys on my father's belt, every sigh of the house felt like a signal. The door wasn't just wood and lock anymore. It was alive. A presence, waiting, watching, patient. And me, I was caught. Like a hook buried under skin, pulling tighter each day. I couldn't shake it. Couldn't forget the whisper. By the time my father finally caught me staring too long at the key on his belt, the damage was done. I didn't just want to know what was behind that door. I needed to. Do you want me? One stormy night, when the house shook with every gust, I did what I swore I'd never do. I stole the key. My father's snores drifted through the walls upstairs, deep and steady. My mother's breathing was softer, fragile. They had no idea. My heart pounded so loud I was sure it would shake them awake, drag them down to stop them. But no footsteps came. Just the storm hammering the windows, the wind clawing like it wanted me to turn back. I gripped the brass key so hard the edges cut into my palm. At the bottom of the stairs, that damn door waited. My breath clouded in the air. The bulb overhead flickered, weak as a dying candle. I slid the key into the lock. It turned too easily, like it had been waiting for me. The door groaned as it opened, louder than it should have. The kind of sound that seems to echo not just in your ears, but in your bones. I expected stone steps, maybe shelves of old jars. What I saw, God help me, it wasn't a room at all. It was a hallway, long, impossible. It stretched farther than the basement walls could ever allow, lined with doors on both sides. Each one identical. Peeling paint, rusted knobs, locked tight. Hundreds of them swallowed in shadow, all but one. At the far end, bathed in a sickly yellow glow, a single door stood open just a crack. Enough for me to see movement, enough for me to hear it. Slow, heavy, patient. The storm outside roared, rattling the glass, but in that hallway, the air was dead. Too still. The smell was wrong, sweet, rotted like flowers left too long in stagnant water. I should have run, slammed the door, thrown the key into the marsh, pretended none of it ever existed. But my legs moved anyway, dragging me forward, one step after another, the floor groaning like it hated my weight. The closer I got, the louder it became. Not the storm, not the breathing. Whispering, my name, over and over, from behind that open door. By the time I reached it, I wasn't holding the key anymore. I wasn't holding anything. And when I pushed that door the rest of the way open, I knew my life would never close behind me again. I slammed the door shut so hard the walls rattled. My hands shook as I fumbled with the key, twisting, forcing, begging it to catch, but it jammed, teeth grinding uselessly inside the lock. From the other side came the sound. Not one whisper now, but dozens, hundreds. A chorus of voices bleeding through the wood, pressing at the seams. Some whispered my name. Some laughed, low and broken. Others just breathed. The stairs thundered, and then my father was there. Shirt half buttoned, belt swinging, his face pale as candle wax. For the first time in my life, he didn't look in control. He looked hollowed out. He didn't yell, didn't ask why. He just shoved me hard enough that I hit the wall, then pressed his entire weight against the door, shoulder grinding into the frame like he'd done it before. His hands shook, not from weakness, but from holding back something stronger than both of us. "Don't ever touch it again," he hissed, voice ragged, barely human. "You don't know what you've let out." And then his eyes caught mine. For a heartbeat, the anger drained away. What filled it wasn't fear either. It was sorrow, heavy, crushing sorrow, like a man who had spent his entire life holding back a tide only he could see. The whispers clawed at the air. My father shoved harder. "Get your mother upstairs, now." I moved, legs numb, ears ringing. Mom had appeared at the top of the stairs, robe tight around her, face pale as she clutched the banister. She didn't ask questions either. Just one look at the scene, and her mouth trembled like she'd known all along. I dragged her back into their room, but I couldn't keep my eyes off the stairwell. Couldn't unhear the voices. Couldn't unsee my father braced against that door, veins standing out on his neck, his shadow thrown long and trembling by the flickering light. That night, the storm raged. The door rattled, and my father held it shut. And me, I lay awake knowing the truth. That door wasn't keeping something in. It was keeping something with us. Next morning, the door was gone. Not shut, not locked, just gone. In its place was smooth drywall, painted the same sickly yellow as the rest of the basement. No seams, no frame, no sign it had ever existed. My father never mentioned it again. Neither did my mother. It was as if we had all agreed to erase it, pretend the night never happened, pretend the voices weren't real. But I knew better. I'd seen the hallway. I'd heard them call my name. And no amount of plaster and paint could bury that truth. Life moved on, at least on the surface. I grew older, left that house, built a life miles away. But the silence never left me. In quiet rooms, in empty hotels, even in crowded apartments, I'd feel it. The weight of something pressing against the other side of a wall. And sometimes at night, when the house is still and the lights are off, I hear it. A doorknob turning. Not in the basement, not even in the old house, but closer. In the hallway outside my bedroom. In the bathroom when I'm brushing my teeth. In the closet where there was never a lock before. It always stops just short of opening. But I know it's only waiting, patient, whispering to someone else. And I wonder, how many doors like that are out there? How many people right now are pressing their ears against wood, too curious, too human, to leave them shut? Maybe you, maybe tonight. Thank you for listening to The Locked Door. If this story kept you on edge, remember to like the video. It helps more than you know. Subscribe for daily stories just like this, and share it with someone who can't resist a good scare. There's another video recommended on your screen right now. Don't miss it. And as always, I'll see you back tomorrow. The scratching in the attic. You ever notice how the smallest sounds feel the loudest at night? A faucet drip, a creak in the floorboards, or worse, scratching. Our story begins in a quiet New England town. One of those places where nothing much happens. At least that's what I told myself when I moved into the old two-story house at the end of Willow Lane. I wasn't anything special, just a guy trying to start over after a messy breakup. The kind of heartbreak that makes you want to disappear into a town where no one knows your name. My flaw? I wanted peace so badly, I ignored every red flag. The house looked perfect. Cheap rent, lots of character, big windows that stared into the woods, a creaky front porch, and a dusty attic I promised myself I'd never need to go into. Old bones for a new beginning. And on that very first night, tucked into my new bed with boxes still stacked in the living room, I told myself I'd finally found the quiet I'd been craving. But then it came. Just as I drifted off, a faint scratching, light at first, like something brushing against the wood above me. I held still, ears straining. A squirrel, maybe. Or mice. Sure, mice. But there was a rhythm to it. Deliberate. Scritch. Pause. Scritch, scritch. I pulled the blanket over my head and laughed at myself. It was nothing. Just an old house settling into its own groans and whispers. Still, a thought rooted itself at the back of my mind, cold and certain. I wasn't alone in that house. The scratching didn't stop. It grew. Louder. Closer. Some nights, it almost seemed like it was following me, shifting from the attic to the walls above my bed, skittering along with my racing heartbeat. I tried everything. Traps, poison, even the old-fashioned peanut butter trick. Nothing worked. Finally, I caved and called an exterminator. A heavy-set guy with tired eyes showed up, the kind who looked like he'd seen everything that could crawl, bite, or gnaw. He went up into the attic with his flashlight, and I waited at the bottom of the steps, palms sweating. When he came back down, he didn't look the same. His face had gone a shade too pale. No sign of rodents, he muttered, shoving his gear into his bag. But I'd seal that attic door if I were you. Then he left. No paperwork, no charge. Just the faint smell of his sweat lingering behind him. That should have been my first clue, but I swallowed it down, told myself I was imagining the whole thing. Except the signs kept piling up. My belongings shifted when I wasn't looking. A chair pulled out from the kitchen table. A picture frame tilted on the wall. The kind of changes so small you'd think you did them yourself until they stacked up into something undeniable, and the attic door. That latch. I'd hear it click in the night. Once, twice. I'd creep into the hall and see it hanging open just a fraction, as though someone or something was testing me. Worst of all, the scratching changed. It wasn't random anymore. It had rhythm, intent, a steady pattern that quickened when I lay awake listening, like it knew I was paying attention. I couldn't take it anymore. Nights blurred into each other, each one stretched thinner by exhaustion. My nerves were fraying. My reflection in the mirror looked hollowed out, eyes rimmed with purple. Finally, one night, I snapped. I grabbed my flashlight, flicked it on, and marched up the attic stairs. Every step groaned under my weight, the sound booming in my chest. The air grew colder as I climbed, heavy with the stench of dust and something else, something sweet and rotten, like spoiled meat. At the top, my hand shook as I reached for the latch. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might burst. And then, I pushed the door open. The beam of my flashlight cut through the dust like a blade. The scratching stopped. Dead silence. The kind of silence that presses against your eardrums, makes you wonder if the world itself is holding its breath. I swept the light across broken trunks, old boxes, shadows that seemed to shift just out of reach. And then, there, from the farthest corner of the attic, two eyes stared back. They gleamed in the beam. Not animal bright, not human dull, but something in between. Wet, watching, knowing. It moved. Crawling forward on all fours, its limbs grotesquely long, fingers dragging against the wooden planks with that same awful rhythm I've been hearing for weeks. Scritch, pause, scritch, scritch. The smell of rot hit me before the sight did. Sweet and spoiled, like meat left too long in the sun. My throat seized, bile climbed the back of my tongue, and then it whispered, my name, not in a voice, in a breath, like the air itself had learned how to shape syllables. I wanted to run, to slam the door and burn the house down behind me. But my legs were stone, my body refusing every desperate order from my brain. The thing crept closer, slow and deliberate, head cocking at an angle that no neck should bend. The flashlight trembled in my hand, and in its glow I saw its face, patches of skin but not whole, empty sockets stitched shut with something dark. a jaw too wide, lined with teeth that looked borrowed from different mouths. And I understood in that moment of pure terror, it hadn't moved into my attic. It had always been here, waiting for me. The whisper came again, harsher this time, scraping along my bones. Come closer. I had to choose. Stand there and let it take me, or fight back. My body finally lurched into motion. I swung the flashlight like a club, aiming for those glistening eyes. The light flickered as it connected with something solid, something that screamed without sound. The attic shook. The scratching erupted all around me, 100 claws on every surface, as though the walls themselves were alive. And in that chaos, I knew one truth as sure as death itself. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. I don't remember running down the stairs. I don't remember slamming the attic door shut, though the raw skin on my palm says I did. What I do remember is the sound. Its fingers, raking, tearing, clawing at the wood from the other side. Not frantic, not angry, just steady, almost playful. I wedged a chair under the latch, as though that thin piece of furniture could hold it back. Then I collapsed on the floor, chest heaving, ears ringing with that awful silence that only broke when the scratching started again. Neighbors came by the next morning, knocking on my door, faces wrinkled with concern. They said they'd heard me screaming in the night. I told them I'd had a nightmare, forced a laugh that felt brittle in my throat. They didn't press, but I saw the way they looked at the house, like it was breathing, like it had always been wrong. The exterminator never answered my calls. His number just rang and rang, until one day the line went dead. I moved my things downstairs, mattress on the couch, toothbrush in the kitchen sink. I don't go near the stairs if I can help it. That part of the house feels heavier now, like the air thickens as you approach it. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the attic door for hours, waiting for the latch to tremble. The worst part isn't the scratching anymore. It's the whispers. They come at night, drifting through the walls, curling under the floorboards. My name, soft as breath. Sometimes another word I don't recognize, low and guttural, like a language older than anything I should understand. I tell myself I could leave, but deep down I know it wouldn't matter. That thing didn't just live in the attic. It lives in me now. The house is just its skin. I haven't told anyone. Who would believe me? The landlord swears the place has been empty for years. He smiles when he says it, but his eyes don't. They dart to the attic door the way mine do, quick and guilty like he knows. And so I wait. Every night on the couch, blanket pulled to my chin, flashlight in reach, I wait. Because I know it's patient, and one day, it won't be scratching anymore. I don't remember running. I don't remember how my feet carried me down the stairs, or how I slammed the attic door hard enough to splinter the frame. I don't even remember falling to my knees gasping with the taste of rust and dust in my mouth. But I remember the sound. Not above me this time, no. Right on the other side of the door. Slow, patient, scritch, pause, scritch, scritch, like it was smiling without a face. I don't sleep in the bedroom anymore. Haven't since that night. The mattress lives on the couch now, sheets crumpled, flashlight always at my side. Down here I can watch the door. Down here I can pretend I still have control. The landlord swears the place has been empty for decades, says no one's rented it in years, says my name with a frown like he can't remember putting it on any lease. Sometimes he lingers by the stairs, staring upward, lips pressed tight, as if he hears it too. But every night, I still hear it. The scratching, slow, patient, not frantic, not hungry, just waiting. And here's the part that eats at me, the part that chews me hollow. Sometimes lying awake in the dark, I swear the scratching stops, just for a heartbeat, like it's waiting for me to answer back. And lately, I've wanted to. Sometimes my fingers twitch against the blanket. Sometimes my lips shape words I don't understand. Sometimes I wonder if the attic isn't above me anymore, if it's inside me, if that's where it's been waiting all along. One night soon, I know I'll climb the stairs again. And when I do, it won't have to call my name anymore. It will already have it. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to The Scratching in the Attic. If you felt that creeping chill, if you're still thinking about that sound in the dark, do me a favor, hit the like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want more stories like this every day, subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who loves a good scare, or someone who could use a warning. Another story is waiting for you right there on your screen. Click it. I'll be here tomorrow, waiting. The frozen window. You ever wake up in the middle of the night, convinced you heard something? That was me. Ordinary guy, small town nobody. The kind of guy who worries about bills more than monsters. My name's Ethan. 35 years old, single, working a job I don't much like, but can't afford to lose. A warehouse on the edge of town. Fluorescent lights, forklifts whining through the aisles. A life measured in paychecks and the sound of a time clock punching me in and out of each day. I rented this upstairs apartment in an old Victorian that had been chopped up into 4 units. The kind of place where the floors slope and every step has a groan in it. The walls were thin enough that you sometimes heard your neighbors sneeze, but you never actually knew them. We all lived side by side, ghosts behind locked doors. In winter, winter was merciless in that town. The wind off the lake hit like a knife. My windows always leaked cold, drafts sneaking in, no matter how much tape and plastic I slapped over them. I'd grown used to it, the constant rattle, the chill that made my breath puff like smoke in the dark. But that night, the cold was different. Not just winter cold, bone cold. The kind that seeps inside you like something pressing against your chest, whispering, "Stay awake." I rolled over, pulling the blanket up, and that's when I saw it. On the window across from my bed, the frost wasn't smooth. Something had been traced there. A word, letters etched with the precision of a fingertip. Only one problem. That window opened to nothing but the empty air above the alley. And I was on the 2nd floor. It spelled my name, Ethan. Rising action. At first, I laughed it off, told myself it was a trick of the light, condensation, anything but what it looked like. The human brain loves patterns. It will carve meaning out of random frost. That's what I told myself. But every night, the writing came back. New words, short phrases, little messages. I see you. Wake up. Don't look down. I'd wipe the window with my sleeve until my arm went numb, only for the words to bead back up, white and sharp against the glass. I taped cardboard over it. Blankets, duct tape. Didn't matter. By morning, it was there again. Fresh, clear, waiting for me. That's when the exhaustion set in. Days at the warehouse blurred into nights at the apartment. I'd sit up in bed, staring at the covered window, waiting for the scratching sound I thought I heard. Coffee wasn't enough anymore. My hands started to shake. Every creak of the building, every hiss of pipes felt like footsteps. Paranoia is a hungry beast. It doesn't just nibble at you, it eats you whole, one thought at a time. Then one night, everything shifted. The message wasn't on the glass anymore. It was inside my mirror. Same handwriting, same frozen strokes, like someone had exhaled frost and carved it with a nail. I remember the taste of metal in my mouth as I read it. Let me in. I staggered back so hard I hit the dresser. My coffee mug crashed to the floor. The room went very quiet. I covered the mirror with a towel. But as soon as I did, I heard it. A faint, wet sound, like fingers sliding against the other side of the glass. I didn't sleep at all after that. I sat awake with a kitchen knife in my lap, eyes darting between the covered window, covered mirror. The next night, the towel was on the floor when I came back from work. The mirror was bare, and the words were waiting for me. Only now they weren't a request. They were a promise. I'm coming. Climax, I broke. I shouted. My voice cracked, echoing off those wonderful walls. I rolled my coffee, my lamp, anything I could grab. Ceramic and glass exploding like gunfire. Tried to fight a ghost with my fists, swinging in shadows. The mirror, the window, the walls, all of it seemed to tremble, like the house itself was breathing. And then I made a mistake. I touched the glass. The frost was wet, not just cold, but wet like ice cream, slick and alive. The letters bled into my skin, black veins of frozen script curled on my palm. My breath hitched, my hand moved. It was stuck there, glued to the window as if the frost had teeth. And for a heartbeat, no, longer than a heartbeat, I felt it. Fingers on the other side, cold, pulling, not human, hungry. The window began to rattle, not just a tremble. This was shaking, cracking, the sound of something old and heavy trying to claw its way through. The lights flickered, went out. The apartment went black, except for that window, glowing pale blue. I could see a shape now behind the glass, pressing pressed against it, tall, crooked, its breath fogging the frost from the other side as it whispered in my ear. Not a voice inside my head. I had to choose. Stay, let whatever it was drag me, tear myself free to take my chances with it. I pulled, harder, pulled. My skin screamed, the frost held like iron. The shape's hand rose to mine, fingers splayed, looking back. I felt the tips pressing against my bones. I ripped my hand back, hard enough to hear the skin tingle. I stumbled back, clutching my hand to my chest, blood and frost dripping between my fingers. The window cracked, like a spider, but it didn't break. The whispering stopped. For the first time since it began, the window was blank, empty. The cold didn't leave. It was behind me, breathing. Falling action, I stumbled away from the window, clutching my wounded hand, screaming without even realizing I was. The sound came raw out of my throat, like an animal caught in a trap. My knees buckled against the dresser, sitting lurching sideways, drawers spilling across the floor. Then, silence. The glass went still. The rattling stopped. The frost melted as if it had never been there at all. The crack that split the pane gone. The surface smooth, perfect, reflecting nothing but a pale, shaking face. My reflection was here. It smiled. Not a nervous smile, not a twitch of my lips caught it laughing. No, my reflection smiled with just I wasn't sure. Why? Delighted. I backed away, dragging my bloody hand against the wall, eyes never leaving my face. And when I reached the door, the reflection raised its hand in my hand. It rained. I slammed the bedroom door shut and didn't go back in. In the days that followed, I lost myself to rituals. Every mirror in the house covered with towels, with sheets, black garbage bags duct taped tight, windows smothered under layers of blankets, light bulbs left on until they burned out. I walked through those dim yellow rooms like a ghost, my hand wrapped in bandages that stuck with dried blood. I stopped holding the door, couldn't face the corridors, the chatter of men who never would leave. Instead, I sat awake and listened, because sometimes God helped me when I heard it. The faint rattle of glass, the soft drag of a fingertip carving letters into ice. The words never appeared again, not on windows, not on mirrors. But the sound was yours, because it means it's still here, writing its promises in the air not breathing. And every now and then, I forget myself catching the window back to school, or the black shine of a dead TV screen. My reflection isn't doing what I'm doing, it's waiting, and I know it's not finished work. Solutions in time doesn't heal this kind of thing. You don't just patch up your hand and move on. No, it lingers, like a song stuck in your head, like a shadow you can't quite shake. I thought I could outsmart it, cover the glass, block the reflections, live in a world without mirrors. But you can't erase your own image. Not really. It waits in the glint of a faucet, the gleam of a phone screen, the dark of a window at night. And every time I see it, my reflection, I wonder if I'm still me. Or if the thing behind the glass is just waiting for the right moment to trade places. I don't know your windows. Don't open the blinds. Don't touch the glass. But I feel it pressing from the other side, patient as winter smiling through my face. So here's the question. What would you do if someone wanted in and the only barrier between you was a thin sheet of glass? Would you fight it, or would you give in, just to see what happens when the cold finally gets through? Because next time you wake up and see something written on the window, how do you know it's not meant for you? Maybe it already is. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like this video. It helps the channel grow and makes these stories more visible to others. Be sure to subscribe for daily content and share this video with someone who loves a good scare, or someone who needs a reminder to shut their curtains at night. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. There's another video recommended on your screen right now. I'll see you back tomorrow.